My name is Pierce Sterling, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a good marriage. Funny how wrong a man can be about the woman sharing his bed. It started on a Tuesday morning in our glass-walled house in Newton, Massachusetts. I was sipping coffee, watching Helena rush around our kitchen like a tornado in designer heels. She grabbed her phone, and I caught a glimpse of the screen. Work was calling. Again. For the third time that week at 7 in the morning. "Another early client meeting?" I asked, stirring my coffee with deliberate calm. Helena's laugh was sharp, brittle. "You wouldn't understand, Pierce. Some of us actually have demanding careers." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. Helena owned a boutique called Luxe downtown. Apparently, high-end fashion required a lot of early morning consultations. Who was I to question it? After all, I was just a guy who sat in front of computer screens all day, moving numbers around. "Will you be late again tonight?" I asked. "Probably. Big case coming up. My lawyer thinks we need to prepare extensively." She grabbed her purse, avoiding my eyes. "Don't wait up." Her lawyer, Donovan Price, of Price and Associates. I'd heard that name a lot lately. Helena had been consulting him about expanding the business for months now. Funny thing about lawyers, they charge by the hour, but Helena never seemed concerned about the bills. After she left, I sat in our empty house, listening to the silence. Our marriage had been cooling for a while, but lately Helena treated me like furniture, expensive furniture she was planning to replace. I walked to my home office, a small room Helena called Pierce's computer cave, when she wanted to be particularly dismissive. 3 monitors glowed to life, showing market data, trading algorithms, and portfolio management systems. To Helena, I was just another office drone. She had no idea what I actually did. That afternoon, I decided to surprise her with lunch. I drove to Luxe, a sleek storefront in Back Bay, where Helena sold overpriced handbags to Boston's elite wives. Through the window, I could see her with her best friend Mara, a sharp-featured woman who treated gossip like a competitive sport. I was about to enter when I heard my name. "Pierce is so pathetic," Mara was saying, her voice carrying through the glass. "What does he even do all day? Sit at his little computer?" Helena laughed. "He makes maybe $40,000 a year moving spreadsheets around. It's embarrassing, honestly. When I think about what I could have married instead." "You should dump him," Mara continued. "Take half his nothing and find someone with actual ambition." "I'm working on it," Helena said, her voice dropping. "Donovan thinks I have a strong case for spousal support. Pierce has been emotionally unavailable for years." My hand froze on the door handle. Donovan thinks. Not "my lawyer advises" or "legal counsel suggests." Donovan thinks. I backed away from the window and returned to my car. The pieces were falling into place like a perfectly executed trade. The early meetings, the late nights, the sudden interest in divorce law. Helena wasn't just planning to leave me, she was planning to fleece me with the help of her attorney, who, apparently, was much more than just her attorney. That evening, Helena came home at midnight, claiming she'd been reviewing contracts with Donovan. She smelled like expensive cologne, not the kind she wore. "How was your day, honey?" she asked, not waiting for an answer as she headed upstairs. "Productive," I said to her retreating figure. "Very productive." Over the next week, I started paying attention. Real attention. The kind of focus I usually reserved for market analysis. Helena's phone buzzed constantly with texts from work. She took calls in the other room, speaking in low, intimate tones. She bought new lingerie, not for me, and started working out with a trainer named Donovan's friend, Marcus. The final confirmation came on a Thursday. I'd told Helena I had meetings all afternoon, but I finished early. I drove downtown planning to grab coffee near her shop. Instead, I saw her walking into the Mandarin Oriental Hotel with a tall man in an expensive suit. They weren't discussing business. His hand was on the small of her back, and she was laughing the way she used to laugh with me years ago. I sat in my car across the street and waited. They emerged 2 hours later, Helena's hair slightly mussed, her lipstick gone. The man, who had to be Donovan Price, kissed her goodbye like they'd been doing this for months. I drove home and sat in my office staring at the screens. My wife was cheating on me with her divorce lawyer. They thought I was some pathetic low earner they could manipulate and discard. Helena was probably already planning how to spend her half of my imaginary $40,000 salary. If only they knew the truth. I pulled up my employment records, my tax returns, my investment portfolios. Helena had never asked about my work, never shown interest in our finances. I handled all the bills, all the investments, all the planning. She just spent money and assumed it came from her boutique. She had no idea that her pathetic husband was a senior partner at Meridian Capital Management, one of Boston's most successful high-frequency trading firms. She didn't know about my promotion 6 months ago, or the bonus structure that had kicked in this year. She'd never bothered to look at a tax return or question why we could afford our lifestyle on what she thought I made. Helena Sterling thought she was playing chess with a pawn. She was about to learn she'd been playing with a king. I opened a new folder on my computer and labeled it Documentation. Then I started making calls. First to my lawyer, not for divorce, but for advice on protecting assets. Then to a private investigator I'd used for corporate due diligence. Finally, to my accountant, requesting certified copies of everything. Helena thought she was setting a trap. But in my business, the best traps are the ones where your opponent thinks they're winning right up until the moment they lose everything. I heard her car in the driveway and closed my laptop. Time to play the role of the oblivious husband for a little while longer. "How was your day, sweetheart?" I called as she came through the door. "Oh, you know, just business." She was practically glowing. "Donovan thinks we're making real progress." "That's wonderful," I said. "I'm so proud of how hard you're working." She kissed my cheek absently and headed upstairs. I waited until I heard the shower running, then reopened my laptop. Game on. The next morning, Helena left early for another client consultation. I waited 30 minutes, then drove to downtown Boston. My first stop was the offices of Price and Associates, located in a gleaming tower overlooking the harbor. I didn't go inside. I just wanted to see where my wife's boyfriend worked. Through the lobby windows, I could see the directory: Donovan Price, senior partner, divorce and family law. His photo showed a man in his mid-40s with silver hair and the kind of confident smile that probably cost a fortune in dental work. The kind of man Helena thought she deserved. My phone buzzed with a text from her. "Working late again. Don't wait up. XOXO." The kisses were a nice touch. Really sold the loving wife act. I drove to my actual office at Meridian Capital. The 42nd floor offered a spectacular view of Boston Harbor, and my corner office reflected my position as one of the firm's top earners. My assistant, Jennifer, greeted me with the usual stack of reports and trade confirmations. "Pierce, the quarterly numbers are incredible," she said, handing me a folder. "Your algorithms generated 18% returns last quarter alone. The partners want to discuss expanding your team." I nodded absently, my mind elsewhere. "Jennifer, I need you to prepare something for me, completely confidential." "Of course. What do you need?" "A comprehensive summary of my compensation for the past 3 years. Include base salary, bonuses, profit sharing, everything. I want it certified by accounting and legal." She raised an eyebrow but didn't question it. Jennifer had worked with me for 5 years. She knew I didn't make frivolous requests. "How detailed do you want this?" "Detailed enough to hold up in court." That afternoon, I met with my lawyer, Thomas Chen, at his office in the financial district. Tom and I had worked together on several corporate deals, and I trusted his discretion. "Pierce, good to see you," he said, shaking my hand. "Though I have to say, your call was intriguing. Marital asset protection isn't usually your area of concern." I sat across from his mahogany desk and laid out the situation. Tom listened without interruption, taking notes on a legal pad. So your wife is having an affair with a divorce attorney, and they're planning to divorce you based on false assumptions about your income, he summarized. That's correct. Helena has no idea what I actually earn. She thinks I make around $40,000 a year. Tom whistled low. And your actual compensation last year was? $680,000, plus equity participation that could push it over $800 depending on firm performance. Jesus, Pierce. How does she not know this? I shrugged. She never asked. I handle all the finances, and she's never shown interest. She assumes her boutique pays for our lifestyle. Tom leaned back in his chair. This is actually fascinating from a legal standpoint. Do you have a prenuptial agreement? Yes. Standard infidelity clause. If either party commits adultery, they forfeit rights to spousal support and receive only premarital assets. And you can prove the affair? I'm working on it. But Tom, I want to be very careful here. I don't want to just win a divorce. I want them to destroy themselves. Tom's eyes lit up with professional interest. What did you have in mind? I want to let them think they're winning. Let them file first. Let them make their claims about my income. Let Donovan get cocky in court. Then, when they're fully committed to their story, I'll produce the real numbers. That's actually brilliant. If they claim you earn $40,000 and you can prove you earn nearly $700,000, it makes them look either incompetent or dishonest. Either way, it destroys their credibility. Exactly. And if Donovan is representing Helena while having an affair with her, that's a massive ethics violation. Tom nodded slowly. The Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers would be very interested in that. It could cost him his license. Good. I want him to lose everything, just like they planned for me. We spent the next hour discussing strategy. Tom would quietly prepare our documentation while staying in the background. I would continue playing the oblivious husband, letting Helena and Donovan dig their own graves deeper. That evening, I stopped by a bar near Helena's boutique. It was the kind of place where Boston's legal community gathered after work. I nursed a beer and waited. At 7:30, they walked in together. Helena had changed into a cocktail dress that I'd bought her for our anniversary. Donovan wore a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. They sat in a corner booth, heads close together, hands touching across the table. I couldn't hear their conversation, but their body language told the story. This wasn't a new affair. They were comfortable together. Familiar. Helena laughed at something he said and squeezed his hand. He signaled the waitress for another round of wine. I paid my tab and left before they noticed me. As I walked to my car, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Clarity. For too long, I'd been drifting through my marriage, accepting Helena's coldness as normal. Now I had a purpose. The next few weeks fell into a routine. Helena would leave early for work, spend her afternoons with Donovan, and come home with elaborate stories about difficult clients and inventory challenges. I nodded sympathetically and asked supportive questions. Meanwhile, I was building a case that would destroy both of them. My private investigator, a former Boston police detective named Sarah Murphy, provided regular updates. Photos of Helena and Donovan entering hotels, credit card records showing expensive dinners charged to his firm, phone records proving they communicated dozens of times each day. They're not even trying to hide it, Sarah told me during one of our meetings. Either they're incredibly arrogant or they think you're incredibly stupid. Probably both, I said. What about Donovan's other cases? That's where it gets interesting. He's represented 3 other women in high-asset divorces over the past 2 years, all attractive, all wealthy, and based on what I'm seeing, he got very friendly with at least 2 of them. So this is a pattern. Looks like it. Donovan Price has a type, rich, unhappy wives looking for an exit strategy. He provides legal services and extracurricular activities. I felt a cold satisfaction. Helena thought she was special, but she was just another mark in Donovan's ongoing scam. The breakthrough came 6 weeks into my investigation. Helena left her laptop open on our kitchen counter, logged into her email. I had about 10 minutes before she returned from her shower. I opened her sent folder and found months of correspondence with Donovan. The early emails were professional, discussions about business expansion and legal strategies. But as I scrolled through, they became increasingly personal. Can't wait to see you tonight. P has no idea. H. You deserve so much better than him. Soon, baby. D. When this is over, we can finally be together properly. H. He'll never see it coming. Trust me, I've done this before. D. That last line made me freeze. I've done this before. Donovan Price wasn't just cheating with my wife, he was running a con, and Helena was either a willing accomplice or another victim. I photographed the emails with my phone and closed the laptop just as Helena came downstairs. Working from home today? I asked casually. Just checking a few things. Donovan sent over some contracts to review. He's very thorough. The best, she said, and her smile was radiant. I'm so lucky to have found him. Yes, I agreed. You certainly are. That afternoon, I met with Tom again. He reviewed the evidence I'd collected and shook his head in amazement. Pierce, this is more than enough for the divorce, but the ethics violation, this could end Donovan's career. Good. When do we file the complaint with the Board of Bar Overseers? Let's wait until after the divorce proceedings start. If we file now, it might spook them into changing strategies. Better to let them commit fully to their plan first. And the asset protection? Already handled. I've moved your investment accounts into a separate entity that predates your marriage. Your salary and bonuses from the past year are protected under the prenup's infidelity clause. If we can prove the affair, Helena gets nothing except what she brought into the marriage. Which was? Tom consulted his notes. About $15,000 in credit card debt and a struggling boutique with negative equity. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Helena thought she was trading up from a loser husband to a successful lawyer. Instead, she was about to lose everything and end up with a disgraced attorney facing ethics charges. The irony was perfect. In my business, we call it a margin call, when your leveraged position moves against you so dramatically that you lose everything. Helena and Donovan were about to get margin called in the worst possible way. I just had to wait for them to make their move. 2 weeks later, Helena served me with divorce papers. She did it on a Friday evening just as I was settling in to watch the Red Sox game. The process server was apologetic. Clearly, he'd dealt with messier situations. Pierce Sterling? He asked. That's me. You're being served with divorce proceedings. Have a good evening, sir. Helena emerged from the kitchen as he left, her face a mask of fake concern. Pierce, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I wanted to tell you myself, but Donovan thought what? I interrupted, scanning the papers. She flushed slightly. My lawyer. He thought a formal process would be cleaner, less emotional. I read through the filing with growing amusement. Helena was seeking 50% of all marital assets, alimony of $2,000 per month, and exclusive use of our house. The petition claimed I earned approximately $45,000 annually as a computer technician, and that Helena's boutique was the primary source of our family income. Computer technician? I asked. Helena shrugged. I wasn't sure how to describe what you do. You sit at computers all day, right? Right, I agreed. Just sitting at computers. The petition also claimed that I had been emotionally distant and unsupportive throughout our marriage, creating an untenable living situation for Helena. It painted me as a hopeless husband who had failed to provide adequate financial or emotional support. I'll need to find a lawyer, I said. Of course, take your time. Donovan says these things can take months to resolve. I bet he did. More billable hours for Donovan, more time for their affair to continue, more opportunities to hide assets before the final settlement. "Where will you be staying?" I asked. "I've rented a small apartment downtown, just temporary until we sort everything out." A small apartment. Right. I'd seen the credit card bills for her new place, a luxury condo in the Seaport district that rented for $4,000 a month. Apparently, Donovan was helping with expenses. That weekend, I called Tom and scheduled an emergency meeting. "They filed," I told him, handing over the papers. Tom read through them, his eyebrows rising with each page. "This is... wow. They're claiming you make $45,000 a year?" "Computer technician," I said. "That's my official job description according to my wife of 12 years. And they want $2,000 a month in alimony based on that income? Apparently, Helena's boutique is our primary source of income. I'm just extra weight." Tom laughed out loud. "Pierce, this is perfect. They've committed to a completely false narrative in writing under oath. When we reveal your actual income, it's going to look like they either never bothered to investigate or they're deliberately lying to the court. What's our next move?" We respond conservatively. Don't reveal your real income yet, but don't agree to their characterization either. I'll file a general denial and request full financial discovery from both parties. That will force Helena to produce her boutique's books. Why is that important? Because I suspect her business isn't as profitable as she claims. If she's been spending beyond her means and relying on your income without realizing it, her financial situation is about to get very interesting. The next few weeks were tense. Helena moved out, taking most of her clothes and personal items. We were civil when we spoke, which wasn't often. She was busy with her new life, and I was busy preparing for war. My private investigator continued documenting Helena and Donovan's relationship. They weren't subtle. Dinner at expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Martha's Vineyard, shopping expeditions where Donovan paid for everything. Either they thought I was too stupid to notice, or they simply didn't care. The first court hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in Suffolk County Family Court. I arrived early, wearing my most conservative suit. Tom met me outside the courthouse. "Remember," he said, "let them talk. Don't react. Don't get emotional. We want them confident and comfortable." "I understand." "And Pierce? This is going to be hard to watch. Helena is going to say some nasty things about you, and Donovan is going to agree with all of it. Stay calm." We entered the courtroom, a sterile space with fluorescent lighting and worn carpet. Helena was already there with Donovan, who looked every inch the successful attorney in his tailored suit and expensive watch. Helena wore a conservative dress that made her look vulnerable and sympathetic. Judge Morrison, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes, called the session to order. She reviewed the initial filings and looked up at both parties. "This appears to be a straightforward dissolution of marriage with disputes over asset division and spousal support," she said. "Mr. Price, your client is seeking significant alimony based on the claim that Mr. Sterling earns approximately $45,000 annually. Do you have documentation supporting this figure?" Donovan stood smoothly. "Your Honor, Mrs. Sterling has provided her best understanding of her husband's income based on 12 years of marriage. Mr. Sterling has been secretive about his finances and dismissive of Mrs. Sterling's attempts to understand their household budget." I kept my face neutral, but inside I was amazed. Secretive? I'd been handling our finances openly for years. Helena had simply never bothered to ask questions. "Mrs. Sterling," the judge continued, "can you describe your understanding of the marital finances?" Helena stood, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "Your Honor, my husband has always been very controlling about money. He handles all the bills and never discusses our income with me. I know he works with computers, and based on our lifestyle, I assumed he made around $40,000 or $50,000. My boutique has been supporting us for years." It was a masterful performance. Helena managed to sound both victimized and financially responsible. The judge made notes and turned to Tom. "Mr. Chen, how does your client respond to these characterizations?" Tom stood calmly. Your Honor, my client disputes the characterization of both his income and his alleged secrecy regarding finances. We request full financial discovery from both parties before proceeding further. Granted. Both parties will provide complete financial records for the past 3 years, including tax returns, bank statements, and business records. We'll reconvene in 30 days. As we left the courthouse, I could hear Helena and Donovan talking excitedly behind us. That went perfectly, Donovan was saying. The judge clearly sympathizes with your situation. She seemed to believe everything, Helena agreed. Pierce looked so pathetic sitting there. I smiled to myself. Let them think they were winning. In 30 days, when all the financial records were on the table, their confidence would evaporate like morning fog. That evening, I sat in my empty house and opened a bottle of wine. Helena's departure had been liberating in ways I hadn't expected. No more walking on eggshells, no more pretending not to notice her constant criticism, no more lying about where she spent her time. My phone rang. It was my boss, Michael Brennan, Meridian Capital's managing partner. Pierce, I wanted to give you a heads up. The board approved the expansion of your division. We're talking about a significant promotion and equity stake. That's great news, Michael. There's just one thing. The promotion comes with a substantial increase in compensation. We're looking at a base salary of $400,000 plus performance bonuses that could push your total package over $1 million annually. I nearly choked on my wine. That's incredible. You've earned it. Your algorithms have generated more profit for this firm than any other single strategy. The partners want to make sure you're properly compensated. After I hung up, I called Tom immediately. The plot just thickened, I told him. I'm getting promoted. My new salary will be $400,000 base, potentially over $1 million with bonuses. Tom was quiet for a moment. Pierce, this changes everything. If Helena is asking for alimony based on a $45,000 income, and you're actually earning over $1 million, she's not just wrong. She's catastrophically wrong. We need to time this revelation perfectly. Let them commit fully to their story, then drop this bomb in open court. How long do we wait? Until the final hearing. Let them think they're winning right up until the moment we destroy them. I hung up and poured another glass of wine. Helena thought she was trading up from a loser to a winner. Instead, she was about to discover that her loser husband was worth more than she'd ever imagined, and thanks to her infidelity, she'd never see a penny of it. The margin call was coming, and Helena Sterling was about to lose everything. The 30 days passed quickly. Helena and Donovan grew increasingly confident as they prepared their case. Through my private investigator, I learned they'd been meeting regularly at expensive restaurants, planning their strategy and celebrating their anticipated victory. Meanwhile, I was preparing my own surprise. Tom and I met the week before the final hearing to review our documentation. The conference table in his office was covered with financial records, tax returns, and certified statements from my employer. "This is almost unfair," Tom said, reviewing my compensation history. "Helena's boutique lost money in 2 of the past 3 years. She's been living entirely off your income without realizing it. What about Donovan's finances? That's where it gets interesting. His firm has been struggling. 3 major clients left last year, and his partner retired, leaving him with significant overhead. He needs this case to work out, both financially and personally." I reviewed the evidence of their affair one more time. Photos, emails, credit card records, hotel receipts. It was overwhelming and undeniable. "The Board of Bar Overseers' complaint is ready to file?" I asked. "The moment the divorce is finalized, Donovan Price will be facing ethics charges that could end his career." The night before the hearing, I had dinner alone at my favorite restaurant in the North End. It was the same place Helena and I had gone for our first anniversary, back when we were happy. Or at least, back when I thought we were happy. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Good luck tomorrow. You deserve better. Sarah." Sarah Murphy, my private investigator. She'd become invested in the case, probably because she'd seen too many cheating spouses get away with their schemes. I texted back, "Thank you, justice is coming." The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully in my best suit, a navy blue Tom Ford that had cost more than Helena thought I made in a month. I arrived at the courthouse early and sat in my car, watching other couples arrive for their own legal battles. Divorce court was a parade of human misery, broken promises, and financial warfare. Tom met me at the courthouse steps. "Ready for this?" "I've been ready for months." We entered the same courtroom where this had all started. Helena and Donovan were already there, looking polished and confident. Helena wore a simple black dress that made her appear both professional and sympathetic. Donovan had his legal brief organized in neat piles, every inch the competent attorney. Judge Morrison called the session to order and reviewed the financial discovery that both sides had provided. "I've reviewed the submitted financial records," she began. "Mrs. Sterling, your boutique's profit and loss statements show significant losses over the past 3 years. How do you reconcile this with your claim that the business has been supporting your household?" Helena looked momentarily flustered, but Donovan stood smoothly. "Your Honor, Mrs. Sterling's business has faced challenges common to retail establishments. However, she has maintained the household through careful budgeting and financial management, supplementing her husband's modest income." "I see. And Mr. Sterling, you've provided tax returns showing an annual income of—" Judge Morrison paused, consulting her notes. "These figures seem incomplete. Mr. Chen, can you clarify your client's actual compensation?" This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Tom stood and approached the bench with a thick folder. "Your Honor, my client's compensation structure is complex, involving base salary, performance bonuses, and equity participation. We've prepared a comprehensive summary certified by his employer's accounting firm." Judge Morrison accepted the folder and began reading. Her eyebrows rose slightly as she worked through the documents. "Mr. Price," she said, "you've characterized Mr. Sterling as earning approximately $45,000 annually. These certified documents show a very different picture." Donovan's confidence flickered for the first time. "Your Honor, we based our estimates on information provided by Mrs. Sterling, who has been married to Mr. Sterling for 12 years. Mrs. Sterling," Judge Morrison said, "were you aware that your husband's actual compensation last year was $680,000? The courtroom went silent. Helena's face went white, then flushed red. She turned to stare at me with an expression of complete shock. "Wait," she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "How much?" $680,000, Judge Morrison repeated, "plus equity participation and bonuses. Mr. Sterling, is this accurate?" I stood for the first time during the proceedings. "Yes, Your Honor. I'm a senior partner at Meridian Capital Management. I handle high-frequency trading algorithms and portfolio management." Helena was still staring at me in disbelief. "But you said you worked with computers." "I do work with computers, Helena. Very expensive, very sophisticated computers that manage hundreds of millions of dollars in assets." Donovan was frantically whispering to Helena, but she wasn't listening. She was doing the math in her head, realizing that everything she thought she knew about our marriage was wrong. "Furthermore," Judge Morrison continued, "I note that your prenuptial agreement contains a clause regarding marital infidelity. Mr. Chen, are you alleging that such infidelity occurred?" Tom approached the bench with another folder. "Yes, Your Honor. We have extensive documentation proving that Mrs. Sterling has been engaged in an extramarital affair for the past 8 months. With whom?" "With her attorney, Mr. Price." The courtroom erupted. Helena gasped audibly. Donovan shot to his feet, his face red with anger and embarrassment. "Your Honor, this is a completely inappropriate accusation." "Mr. Price," Judge Morrison's voice cut through the noise like a blade, "are you denying that you've had a personal relationship with your client?" Donovan opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at Helena, who was staring at him with dawning horror as she realized what this meant for both of them. Your Honor, Mr. Chen, please present your evidence. Tom handed over photographs, hotel receipts, credit card records, and email printouts. Judge Morrison reviewed them methodically while the courtroom remained silent. Mrs. Sterling, she finally said, did you engage in an extramarital relationship with your attorney? Helena looked around the courtroom like a trapped animal. Everyone was staring at her. The court reporter, the bailiff, other attorneys waiting for their cases to be heard. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. That's a yes, Judge Morrison said dryly. Mr. Price, you've represented a client with whom you were having an intimate relationship while helping her pursue a divorce based on completely false financial information. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Donovan's career was ending in real time, and he knew it. Your Honor, this is a complex situation. It's really not, Judge Morrison replied. Mrs. Sterling, based on the evidence presented, you violated the infidelity clause in your prenuptial agreement. You are entitled to no spousal support and no division of marital assets acquired during the marriage. You will receive only what you brought into the marriage, which according to these records was approximately $15,000 in credit card debt. Helena finally found her voice. But I didn't know. I didn't know he made so much money. If you had known, you wouldn't have cheated. Judge Morrison's tone was ice cold. Mrs. Sterling, ignorance of your husband's income doesn't excuse adultery. You chose to have an affair with your lawyer while pursuing a divorce. The consequences of that choice are your responsibility. She turned to Donovan. Mr. Price, I'm referring this matter to the Board of Bar Overseers for immediate investigation. Your conduct represents a serious breach of professional ethics. Donovan slumped in his chair. His career was over, and he knew it. Mr. Sterling, Judge Morrison concluded, you will retain all marital assets. Mrs. Sterling, you have 30 days to remove your personal belongings from the marital home. This divorce is granted. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed through the silent courtroom. As people began filing out, Helena sat frozen in her chair. The reality was sinking in. She'd traded a marriage to a wealthy man for an affair with a lawyer who was about to be disbarred. She'd lost everything based on an assumption that was catastrophically wrong. Donovan was packing his briefcase with shaking hands. His confident demeanor had evaporated completely. He looked like a man watching his life collapse in real time. I stood and straightened my tie. Tom was grinning beside me, clearly proud of our victory. Pierce, Helena called out as I reached the door. Pierce, wait. Can we talk? I turned back to look at my ex-wife. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of her choices. There's nothing to talk about, Helena. You made your decision months ago. But I didn't know. You didn't know because you never bothered to ask. In 12 years of marriage, you never once showed interest in what I actually did for a living. You were too busy assuming I was beneath you. Tears were streaming down her face now. What am I supposed to do? I have nothing. The boutique is failing. My apartment lease is in Donovan's name. I have no money. I felt a moment of something that might have been pity. Then I remembered the months of lies, the contempt in her voice when she talked about me to her friends, the way she'd planned to destroy me financially. You should have thought of that before you decided to trade up, I said. Good luck, Helena. You're going to need it. I walked out of the courthouse into the bright Boston sunshine. Tom was waiting by his car, still grinning. That was beautiful, he said. Absolutely beautiful. I've never seen a case flip so dramatically. What happens now? Now? Helena gets nothing except her debt. Donovan faces ethics charges that will likely end his career, and you get to start over with your entire fortune intact. I looked back at the courthouse, where Helena and Donovan were probably still sitting in shock, trying to figure out how their perfect plan had gone so wrong. You know what the funny thing is? I told Tom. If Helena had just been honest with me, if she'd told me she was unhappy instead of cheating, I would have given her half of everything in a fair divorce. She could have walked away with millions. Instead, she gets nothing. Instead, she gets exactly what she deserves. I drove home to my empty house, which was no longer empty but peaceful. I opened a bottle of champagne, the good stuff, Dom Perignon that Helena had been saving for a special occasion. Well, this was special enough. My phone rang. It was Michael Brennan from Meridian Capital. Pierce, I heard you had some personal business today. Everything work out all right? Better than all right, Michael. Much better. Good, because I have news about that promotion we discussed. The board approved everything. 400,000 base salary, plus a signing bonus of 200,000. You start Monday as managing director of algorithmic trading. I raised my champagne glass to the empty room. That sounds perfect. After I hung up, I sat in my living room and thought about the past few months. Helena had tried to play me for a fool, assuming I was weak and poor and easy to manipulate. She'd enlisted a corrupt lawyer to help her steal money I didn't have, while having an affair that violated our prenuptial agreement. They'd thought they were so clever, so sophisticated, but they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated their opponent. In trading, we have a saying, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. Helena and Donovan had bet everything on an irrational